The city of Louisville was loud in the daytime, but at night it felt like a giant stage waiting for a champion to appear. Bright streetlights glowed on wet pavement, and the old gym stayed open late, filled with the sharp sounds of gloves, ropes, and hard breathing. In that city lived a young man named Cassius Clay, a black man with short black hair, quick feet, and a voice that never stayed quiet for long. He wanted more than trophies, because he wanted the whole world to hear him say that he was great before anyone else dared to say it for him. That dream mattered because in a world that expected him to stay small, Cassius wanted to stand tall and prove that speed, pride, and belief could change everything. Around him, people watched with different hopes and fears, and the biggest danger was simple to understand from the start. If Cassius could not rise fast enough, the world would treat him like a loud boy who made too many promises. His first true guide was Coach Henry, a broad man with a shaved head, a gray beard, and calm eyes that missed nothing. Henry trained young fighters in a worn gym with cracked walls, and he cared about discipline more than noise. He saw that Cassius had rare speed, but he also saw the danger inside that speed, because a fast fighter who does not think can lose control the moment fear enters the ring. Henry wanted Cassius to become more than a showman, and that made him matter from the beginning. There was also Ricky, a quiet young sparring partner with brown hair and a careful face, who helped Cassius sharpen his timing in long afternoon sessions. Ricky wanted respect, and he pushed Cassius harder than most people dared. Together, they built a simple but powerful plan because Cassius did not just want to win fights. He wanted to become a symbol, and he believed that if he moved fast enough, even the hardest world could not catch him. The first years felt like a storm of light. Cassius bounced into the ring with a smile, talked fast, moved faster, and turned every match into a performance. People came to laugh at the young man who bragged too much, but they left remembering him because his hands landed first and his feet never stayed still. He won again, and each victory made his voice louder. He said he was the greatest, and the world began to wonder if he might be right. Then came the greater stage where every camera looked close and every mistake looked huge. Cassius took the world title, and the name Muhammad Ali began to rise beside the name he was born with. That change mattered because it showed a deeper part of him, a part that wanted his life to belong to his faith and his own choice. But the same strength that lifted him also brought trouble. The public did not always understand him, and some people who once cheered began to turn away when he refused to live by their expectations. Suddenly, the ring was not the only place where he had to fight. Then the world hit him with a heavier blow than any punch. Muhammad Ali was pulled into years of isolation because he stood by his beliefs and refused to give up his identity. His title was taken, his career was frozen, and the man who once filled arenas now faced empty days and long silence. He could still move, still talk, and still believe, but time kept moving too. The feat that once seemed impossible to catch grew a little slower, and the world around him started to whisper that his best days were gone. That doubt mattered because it was not just coming from strangers. It came from reporters, old fans, and even the lonely corners of his own mind. In those quiet nights, Muhammad Ali trained in small rooms and shadowy gyms where the light cut through dust like a blade. Coach Henry stayed near him not as a miracle worker but as a steady hand. He reminded him that a champion is not made only when the crowd is loud. A champion is made when nobody is watching and the heart still chooses to stand up. During that long break, a new enemy began to rise in the boxing world. His name was Victor Reed, a huge undefeated champion with black hair, a square jaw, and a cold stare that made people step back. Victor did not move like Ali. He did not dance, joke, or play with the crowd. He pressed forward like a wall and believed that force was the only truth that mattered. Victor wanted to crush Ali for one simple reason. He believed the old legend was finished, and he wanted to prove that speed, style, and pride could not survive against raw power. That motive made him dangerous because he was not fighting only for glory. He was fighting to erase the memory of Muhammad Ali and replace it with a new order built on fear. Victor and his manager, Sharon Miles, a sharp woman with straight blonde hair and a hard smile, used every interview to say the same thing. They said Ali was too old, too proud, and too slow. They wanted the world to believe it, because if the world believed it, then the fight would be over before the bell even rang. At first, Muhammad Ali looked like he might actually be trapped by time. In sparring, he was sharp but not sharp enough. His body held memories of greatness, but his timing did not always match those memories. The younger fighters around him watched closely, unsure whether they were seeing a legend or a man trying to outrun his own past. Then came a strange and important moment that changed everything. During a late-night training session, Muhammad Ali watched his own shadow on the wall, and he noticed that he was chasing speed as if speed was the answer by itself. Coach Henry stopped him and said the truth in plain words. He said Muhammad Ali was not losing because he had become weak. He was losing because he was trying to fight like the old version of himself instead of becoming the wiser version. That was the twist hidden in his struggle. His real challenge was not to become faster than before. His real challenge was to trust rhythm, patience, and timing in a new way, even if it looked different from the past. Once he understood that, his face changed, and the fire inside him came back in a calmer form. So the training became harsher and smarter. Muhammad Ali ran before sunrise through empty streets, his breath steady, his eyes locked forward while the city slowly woke around him. He sparred with Ricky, who tried to pressure him with straight charges and corner traps, forcing Ali to learn how to slip, pivot, and answer at the perfect time. He worked on ropes, platforms, and mirrored drills that made him study his own movement until every step had purpose. The camera of the mind seemed to stretch each moment, turning sweat into shining trails and turning the gym into a glowing battlefield. Yet the pressure outside the gym kept growing too. People asked if he was foolish to return. Reporters asked if the best years were gone forever. Even old supporters wondered whether the legend had finally become only a memory. Muhammad Ali felt all of it, but now he carried a new answer. He was not chasing approval anymore. He was chasing truth, and truth was this: if he could stay calm under force, then force would break itself against him. The championship fight was set in a massive arena that looked almost unreal under the lights. The crowd roared like a single living thing, and the ring sat in the center like a bright island above a dark sea. Victor Reed entered first, tall and still, his black hair slicked back, his shoulders wide, and his expression empty with confidence. He looked like a man who believed the end had already been decided. Then Muhammad Ali stepped out, older now, leaner now, but carrying a quiet flame that the cameras could not fake. His black hair was short as ever, his eyes were sharp, and his stance looked relaxed in a way that hid deep skill. He had already told the world what he planned to do, and now he had to do it for real. The bell rang, and Victor rushed forward with heavy power, trying to trap him against the ropes and overwhelm him before the rhythm could begin. Muhammad Ali moved back, turned, slipped, and answered with fast combinations that cut the air like lightning. Round by round, the fight became a battle of two worlds. Victor pushed with all his strength, believing that a wall could not be broken if it kept moving. Muhammad Ali gave ground when he had to, then stepped in with clean counters that made the crowd erupt in waves. Each time Victor tried to corner him, Ali found a narrow path out. Each time the champion tried to crush him with force, Ali returned with timing that looked almost impossible. But the battle was not easy, and the old fear came back in flashes. There were moments when Muhammad Ali felt the weight of age in his legs and the memory of those long, silent years in his chest. In those moments, he did not panic. He remembered Coach Henry, he remembered the empty gyms, and he remembered that greatness was not a loud voice. Greatness was the choice to keep moving when the body complained and the crowd doubted. That choice kept him alive in the fight, and the arena felt that change as clearly as thunder. As the later rounds came, Victor Reed slowed for the first time because his force had burned too hot for too long. Muhammad Ali saw it happen, and he understood that the fight had turned. He no longer needed to run from the wall. He needed to guide it into emptiness. With a final burst of rhythm, he floated to the side, drew Victor forward, and answered with a sharp, clean combination that broke the champion's balance and drove him back step by step. The crowd rose as one, screaming his name because they were not just watching a fight anymore. They were watching a man reclaim himself. Victor tried one last charge, but Ali read it early, slipped away, and struck with such perfect timing that the larger man stumbled and had to retreat into the ropes. The bell sounded and the arena exploded. Muhammad Ali stood in the center under blazing lights, breathing hard, his face calm, his body tired, and his spirit fully awake. He had not beaten time itself, and he had not become young again. He had done something greater. He had accepted who he was now, and by doing that, he became stronger than the fear that tried to finish his story. Yet even in victory, the night held one more shadow, because the world had seen his return, and everyone now wanted to know how far this new version of Muhammad Ali could go. The bright lights of the arena still burned in the minds of everyone who had watched Muhammad Ali stand calm in the center ring, because no one had expected a man who looked tired to move with such quiet control. The crowd had come to see speed, power, and a young body that could not fail, yet what they saw instead was something harder to explain. They saw a man who understood his limits and refused to bow to them. That truth spread fast through the night, and by morning, people across the city were talking about him in barbershops, gyms, newsrooms, and kitchen tables. Some called it a miracle, some called it a trick. Victor Reed called it a warning. Victor was a tall man with black hair, a heavy frame, a square jaw, and a stare so cold that it made most men step back before he even spoke. He was the reigning champion in the eyes of many hard fighters, and he wanted one thing above all else. He wanted to prove that the old legend had already spent his last strong hour. Beside him stood Sharon Miles, a sharp woman with straight blonde hair, a slim build, and a hard smile that never reached her eyes. She was not interested in pride the way Victor was. She wanted control. She wanted Ali, his name, his return, and the money that would follow. She believed the world did not care about truth as much as it cared about a story, and she planned to own that story before anyone else could. In the middle of all of this stood Coach Henry, a man with a shaved head, a gray beard, broad shoulders, and steady eyes. He had trained fighters long enough to know that fame could help a man and ruin him in the same day. He wanted Ali to stay free, stay sharp, and stay honest. He also wanted Ricky there because Ricky was a young man with brown hair, a slim athletic frame, and a serious face that showed more thought than talk. Ricky had watched the last fight with both awe and fear, and now he wanted to learn what it truly meant to fight with purpose instead of noise. Back at the Louisville gym, the air felt thick with dust, sweat, and the old smell of hard work. The cracked walls, hanging heavy bags, old ropes, and rough training rings stood like silent witnesses to every bruise, every lesson, and every dream that had passed through the place. Coach Henry brought Ali there before the sun fully rose, and Ricky followed with tape, water, and fresh gloves. Ali walked in wearing white and gold boxing trunks, white gloves, and a focused expression that stayed calm even when his body felt heavy. His short black hair shone under the weak morning light, and his sharp eyes moved over the room as if he was measuring every shadow. He was still the same man who smiled under pressure, but now that smile had a quieter edge. He knew the world was watching, and he knew the next step would matter more than the last one. Coach Henry set a hand on the ring rope and spoke in a low voice. He told Ali that the public would demand a spectacle, but the real fight was not against the crowd. The real fight was against the need to prove too much. Ali listened carefully, then nodded once because he understood. He did not need youth to be useful. He did not need to become someone else to matter. He only needed to fight with complete truth. Ricky looked at him with growing respect because this was not the same kind of confidence he had seen in younger fighters. This confidence was built from pain, patience, and survival. Then Sharon arrived without warning, her polished shoes cutting across the old floor like they owned the room. She carried papers in one hand and a neat folder in the other, and she smiled as if she had already won. She told Ali that the arena wanted him to sign a special agreement for a public main event against Victor Reed. She said the match would be bigger than anything he had done before, and she said the whole city would be waiting. But her voice had a hidden blade in it. If Ali signed, she would control the promotion, the interviews, and the way his return was sold to the world. If he refused, she would leak stories that made him look afraid. Coach Henry saw the trap at once. Ali saw it too, but he did not answer right away. Instead, he asked one simple question. He asked whether Victor had chosen this fight for pride or for Sharon. Sharon's smile slipped for just a moment, and that tiny crack told everyone more than her words ever could. Victor was not chasing glory alone. He had been promised a larger contract if he crushed the legend in public and made the ending look final. He needed that reward because he had spent years training under pressure, building a body of steel, and being told that force was the only language that mattered. Sharon wanted to turn that force into profit. Victor wanted the fame that came from breaking a myth. Both of them needed Ali to lose in a way the public could not forget. The next days brought sharper pressure, and each one raised the stakes higher than the last. Reporters gathered outside the gym. Fans shouted from the street. Rival trainers sent messages full of doubt. Sharon kept returning with more papers, more offers, and more threats hidden inside polite language. She said the world loved a comeback, but only if the comeback stayed under her control. She said Ali was already old news unless he agreed to follow the plan. Ali never raised his voice, but his silence carried more weight than her words. He trained harder instead of louder. He moved through footwork drills, bag work, and balanced steps with Coach Henry calling out short corrections, while Ricky mirrored each motion with intense focus. Ali could not move like he once had, so he learned to move with less wasted effort. Every step became useful, every turn became clean, every breath became part of the plan. That change mattered because the old style of boxing had relied on speed alone, but the new style demanded patience, timing, and discipline. Coach Henry explained to Ricky that true power often came from knowing what not to do. Ricky held that lesson close because he had spent too long thinking greatness only came from showing off. Then came the twist that changed the room. One evening, while cleaning the locker corner behind the ring, Ricky found an old envelope hidden inside a cracked storage box. Inside were copies of contract notes, hand-signed payment sheets, and a private letter from Sharon to Victor. The letter was direct and cold. She had not only been helping Victor prepare the fight. She had promised him that if he made Ali look weak in front of the cameras, she would push for Victor to become the face of the sport, while Ali would be labeled a fading memory. The deeper truth was worse than simple greed. Sharon had once worked with Ali during his earlier rise, and she had seen how much the public loved his voice, his style, and his courage. She believed that if she could own his return, then she could control every part of the sport that still loved him. She did not just want money, she wanted power over the legend itself. Ricky brought the letter to Coach Henry and Ali, and the room went still. Ali read it without anger at first, and then he gave a short laugh that sounded more tired than amused. He said Sharon had made the same mistake many people made. She thought the name was the prize. He said the real prize was the man who carried it. That was the moment the story changed. Ali was no longer training only to win a fight. He was training to protect his own truth from being stolen by people who saw him as a tool. When fight night finally came, the championship arena rose like a massive storm of light, noise, and shadow. The overhead lamps glared down on the central ring, while the seated crowd filled every level with motion and heat. Victor Reed walked out first, his black hair slicked back, his muscular frame tense, and his expression locked in cold force. He wore dark championship trunks and black gloves, and the crowd answered him with a loud wave of fear and respect. Sharon watched from the side with her blonde hair pulled smooth, her dark business suit sharp under the lights, and her calculating smile hidden behind a calm face. She believed the night belonged to her. Ali stepped out next, and the arena changed at once. He wore white and gold trunks, white gloves, and that same focused look, but now it was deeper and steadier. He was not trying to look young. He was not trying to look untouched. He was showing the world a man who knew exactly who he was. Coach Henry stood in the corner, shoulders set, eyes steady. Ricky stood near the ropes with careful hands and a serious face, ready for anything. The bell rang, and Victor came forward with crushing pressure, throwing heavy strikes meant to overwhelm quickly. Ali moved back, then sideways, reading the rhythm with patient eyes. The crowd leaned in because they expected force to win, but Ali answered with timing. He slipped just enough, turned just enough, and let Victor waste energy on empty space. Victor grew angry, and that anger made him rush. Sharon saw the change and tightened her jaw because the fight was not following her script. In the middle rounds, Victor landed several hard body shots that forced Ali to step back and breathe hard, but Ali stayed on his feet, calm and sharp, while the older fire in him began to guide every choice. Then the second twist hit the night. Victor suddenly stopped after one exchange and looked past Ali toward Sharon. The crowd did not understand at first, but Victor had seen what Ali had already learned. Sharon had promised him the top, but she had also planned to cut him loose after the fight and put the whole blame on him if anything went wrong. Victor had been used too, and now the truth stood bare in the center of the ring. His face changed from cold confidence to raw surprise, and for a brief moment he lost the trust that had powered his attack. Ali saw that opening, but he did not strike from cruelty. He stepped in with clean focus and used the opening to drive Victor back with a sequence of sharp, careful blows that earned the crowd the loudest roar of the night. Victor staggered, then caught himself, then tried again, but the balance of the fight had already changed. Ali had not become young, and he had not become a machine. He had become wiser than fear, and that made him harder to break. Yet even as Victor faltered and Sharon stepped back in shock, the lights above the ring began to flicker in a strange pattern, and a new shadow moved across the upper seats as if someone else had been waiting to watch the outcome from the dark. Ali looked up for one brief second, and the story of the night shifted again because this fight was not finished, and the next answer was already waiting somewhere beyond the light. The championship arena still shook with noise, but the sound had changed now because the crowd could feel that something strange had entered the night. Bright lights flashed over the ring, then dimmed, then flashed again, and each flicker threw long black shapes across the ropes and the floor. Muhammad Ali stood near the center with his gloves up, his short black hair damp with sweat, his sharp eyes locked on the movement above the seats. He had a lean, athletic build, a calm face, and a stance that looked loose only to people who did not understand him. He knew the real danger was never only in front of him. It was also in the pressure that tried to bend a man from the inside. On the far side of the ring, Victor Reed drew in a hard breath and tightened his black gloves. Victor was a tall man with black hair, a heavy muscular frame, a square jaw, and cold eyes that rarely showed surprise. He wanted one thing more than anything else, and that was to win in a way that proved no one could stand against him. Beside the ropes, Sharon Miles watched with a hard, calculating smile. She was a sharp woman with straight blonde hair, a slim build, and a dark business suit that made her look neat and dangerous at the same time. She wanted control, not just victory, because control meant money, power, and the ability to decide who rose and who fell. Coach Henry stayed near the corner with his shaved head, gray beard, broad shoulders, and steady eyes, while Ricky waited close by in plain gym clothes and gloves, his brown hair falling across a serious face. Henry wanted Ali to stay smart and safe, and Ricky wanted to help however he could, because both men knew the night had become bigger than a simple fight. Something in the upper seats watched all of them in silence, and the problem was now clear to everyone who still had the courage to look. Someone had planned this night to break Ali, to shake Victor, and to use the arena crowd as cover for a hidden move that had not yet been revealed. Ali kept his eyes on the shadow for one heartbeat, then he looked back at Victor and made a choice. He would not let the strange lights steal his focus, and he would not let fear turn his mind into a mess. He gave Victor a small nod, not from respect alone, but from the calm challenge of a man who understood the moment. Victor answered with a sharp forward step, and the ring suddenly felt smaller. He came in with raw force, throwing a heavy combination meant to crush Ali against the ropes and end the opening of this new round before Ali could settle. Ali moved with quick feet, slipping to one side, then the other, his white gloves turning the pressure aside in clean, smart beats. The crowd roared when the blows passed close enough to shake the air, and then louder still when Ali answered with a fast counter that struck Victor into hesitation. Victor had expected fear, and he had found rhythm instead. That difference mattered. It made him angry, and Sharon saw that anger at once. Her smile faded into a thin line because anger in a fighter could be useful, but only if it stayed under control. If it turned wild, then her plan would lose shape. She lifted two fingers toward the dark seats, and the shadow above them moved again, slow and careful, as if waiting for a signal. Coach Henry noticed the motion and frowned because he understood that Sharon was not only watching the fight. She was guiding it. Ricky leaned close and asked if they should tell the officials about the flickering lights, but Henry shook his head once. Not yet. He wanted to see what Sharon was trying to hide, because the first rule in a trap was to learn where the wire ran. The lights flickered harder, and for a moment the ring looked like a broken picture, cut into pieces by shadow and glare. Ali used that broken moment well. He stepped in close, touched Victor with a quick jab, then slid out before the bigger man could lock his arms around him. Victor swung again, harder this time, and the canvas groaned under his feet as he forced the fight forward. He was not only trying to win now, he was trying to erase the shame of looking shaken in front of the whole arena. That shame mattered to him because Victor had built his whole life on the idea that force should always rule. He had trained under men who praised power and mocked patience, and Sharon had promised him this stage would make him untouchable. But Ali kept proving that power alone was not enough. A fighter also needed timing, patience, and heart. In the middle of the pressure, Ali began to notice something new. The shadow in the upper seats was not random. It was moving in a pattern, shifting from one gap in the lights to another, always just out of full view. Ali remembered the way Coach Henry had taught him to study not only hands, but habits. The watcher was not just watching. He was sending a signal. Ali looked to Henry for only a second, and Henry understood the question without words. He had seen enough. There was someone in the upper level helping Sharon, and the strange lighting was part of the plan. The arena had been set up to confuse the fighters, slow their reactions, and make one mistake look like fate. That was the real stakes of the night now. If Ali lost his focus, Victor would use the opening. If Victor lost his mind, Sharon would push him harder. And if the hidden watcher completed the signal, whatever plan waited above the arena would finally be put into motion. Then the twist came, and it was small at first, which made it worse. One of the upper shadows stepped forward just enough for Ali to see a face, and that face belonged to a man he knew from the gym. It was Eddie, the arena electrician, a quiet worker with a tired expression and dark hair, the kind of man most people forgot in a crowd. He had helped keep the lights running during local events, and he had once thanked Coach Henry for giving him work when times were hard. Ali had never seen Eddie as a threat. Now he understood that Eddie was not there by choice alone. Sharon had used money and pressure to force him into helping her, and Victor had probably never even asked what the setup was. Eddie had been told to keep the lighting unstable just long enough to unsettle Ali and make Victor look stronger by comparison. That was Sharon and Victor together in the same ugly design, one using fear and the other using strength, both hoping the truth would stay hidden. Ali felt anger rise, but he did not let it take him over. Instead, he called out, clear and loud, asking Eddie why he was helping this mess. The voice echoed through the arena, and the crowd began to murmur. Sharon snapped her head up because she had not expected Ali to expose the hidden link so fast. Eddie froze in the shadows, torn between guilt and fear. Victor looked back too, and for the first time, he looked less like a wall and more like a man standing near the edge of a mistake. Coach Henry stepped forward and raised one hand toward Eddie, not with blame, but with warning. He told Eddie to stop now, before the whole scheme collapsed on top of him. Ricky added that nobody there wanted to see a worker trapped between rich people and their demands. That simple truth reached the man. Eddie looked down at the control box beside his seat, then at the ring, then at Sharon, and he saw that he had become part of a plan that would hurt everyone except her. His hands shook, the lights flickered one last time, then steadied for a breath as if the arena itself was waiting for his answer. In that breath, Victor charged again, desperate to use the distraction before it could vanish. He lunged with full force, trying to overwhelm Ali while the crowd still watched the upper seats. But Ali had already changed. He was no longer fighting only to survive the round. He was fighting to break the trap in front of everyone. Ali met Victor in the center and slipped inside the heavy rush, then landed a clean series of shots that forced Victor back 2 steps, then 3. The crowd exploded not because the punches were cruel, but because they were exact. They carried skill, courage, and perfect timing. Victor tried to push forward again, but his balance had already begun to slip because anger made his movements bigger and slower. Ali saw the opening and chose restraint over wild force, guiding the fight instead of chasing it. That choice mattered. It showed the change inside him. Earlier, he had wanted to prove he was the best by making a loud statement. Now he wanted something deeper. He wanted truth, fairness, and control over his own mind. Sharon understood that the match was slipping from her grip, so she shouted at Victor to finish it and move harder. But her words only made him tighten up. The more she pushed, the more he looked trapped. In the upper seats, Eddie finally made his own choice. He switched the control box back to normal power, and the arena lights snapped fully bright again. The hidden shadow disappeared into the crowd, no longer able to hide behind the flicker. The ring became clear, the ropes glowed under the lights, and every face in the arena could now see the truth. Sharon took a step back, her hard smile gone for the first time. She had lost the secret advantage she wanted so badly, and she knew it. Victor kept fighting, but now he had no darkness to lean on, no confusion to cover him, and no easy path through Ali. Still, the fight was not over. Ali could feel that Victor had one more surge left, and Sharon was already planning her next move from the edge of the ropes. Coach Henry watched Ali with proud, steady eyes because he could see the new steel in him now. Ricky exhaled slowly and lowered his shoulders, knowing the worst of the trap had been broken, but not finished. Above them, in the restored light, the upper seats no longer hid the truth, yet one question still hung in the air. Who had truly put Sharon in motion, and why had she risked so much to control this night? Ali looked toward the dark edge of the arena where the answer might still be waiting. Then he turned back to Victor, calm and ready, as the next round began to rise like thunder from the floor of the ring. The championship arena still felt cold under the bright lights, even after the first trap had been broken, because the crowd could see the ring again, but nobody could yet see the full plan. High above the floor, the open seats now looked less like shadows and more like witnesses, and every face in the building seemed frozen between hope and fear. Muhammad Ali stood in the center with white gloves raised, his short black hair damp, his sharp eyes steady, and his lean body loose in the way only a true fighter could be. He had learned that fear lost power when it was named, and he now knew the real danger was not only Victor Reed in front of him, but also Sharon Miles somewhere in the dark, moving people like pieces on a board. Sharon was a woman with straight blonde hair, a slim build, and a hard, calculating smile, and she wanted control because control meant money, power, and silence. Victor Reed was a tall man with black hair, a heavy muscular frame, and a cold stare, and he wanted to crush every challenge because losing would shatter the image he had built around himself. Coach Henry, a man with a shaved head, a gray beard, and broad shoulders, watched from the corner with steady eyes, knowing this round could decide whether Ali kept his focus or stepped into another trap. Ricky, young and serious with brown hair and a slim, athletic frame, leaned near the ropes in plain gym clothes, ready to move if danger came from the side instead of the front. Even Eddie, the tired arena worker with dark hair and a nervous face, stood near a maintenance door with his hands shaking, because he had begun to understand that the people who ordered him around cared nothing about him at all. The problem was now clear to everyone who mattered, because if Sharon kept control of the arena systems, she could hide what she had done, steer the crowd, and keep the truth buried long after the bell. That was why Ali had to stay calm, because this was no longer only about winning one fight, but about exposing the whole night before it swallowed him and his friends. Victor moved first, not with panic, but with heavy certainty, and he came forward like a storm with a plan. His black gloves cut through the air in hard, straight lines, and each step made the floor seem to tremble under his weight. Ali slid back just enough, his stance open and clean, then answered with quick jabs that snapped Victor away from the center. The punches were not meant to hurt badly, but to measure, to read, and to remind the crowd that Ali still owned his own rhythm. Victor hated that rhythm because it made him look slow, and a man like Victor Reed could not tolerate looking slow in front of a full arena. He pressed harder, driving Ali toward the side ropes where the shadows were thinner now but still dangerous. Coach Henry called out simple words, telling Ali to breathe, to turn, and to keep the fight wide because narrow space belonged to the stronger bully. Ali listened, and that was already a change from the old version of himself, the one who had wanted to prove everything with speed and pride alone. He feinted left, then stepped right, and Victor lunged just enough to miss by inches. The crowd rose with a loud roar, but Ali did not feed on the noise anymore. He understood that the sound of a crowd could lift a fighter, yet it could also distract him from the small signs that mattered more. He saw Victor glance once, only once, toward the upper edge of the arena, and that single look told Ali something important. Victor was not fighting only for himself. He was checking to see whether Sharon was still in control of the night. At the edge of the ring, Ricky noticed the same thing, and his serious face tightened as he leaned toward Coach Henry. He had a careful mind, and he had spent the night watching the corners, the doors, and the strange movement in the seats far above. While Ali kept Victor busy, Ricky finally spotted Eddie near the maintenance panel, and he realized the worker was carrying more fear than tools. Ricky waved him closer with a small, sharp motion, and Eddie obeyed because he no longer knew which side could protect him. Eddie was an average man with an ordinary uniform, but his tired eyes made it clear that he had been trapped by pressure for hours. He confessed in a low voice that Sharon had ordered him to reroute the arena lights and delay the screen feed because she wanted the crowd confused when the right moment came. She had promised him safety, then threatened his job when he hesitated, and Victor had been told only enough to keep him obedient. The plan was simple and cruel, because Sharon believed that if the audience saw the fight as a mystery, they would accept whatever story she sold them afterward. She wanted to turn victory into a product and truth into a rumor. This was the reason she had risked so much and the reason she had pushed the entire night into chaos. She did not care who got hurt by the pressure, as long as she kept the power to decide what everyone believed. Ricky carried this information to Coach Henry, and Henry immediately saw the shape of the trap. If Sharon still controlled the upper systems, she might try one more move to tilt the round. So Henry sent Ricky toward the side control booth while telling Ali to buy time and keep Victor occupied. In that moment, the fight inside the ring and the fight outside it became one struggle, and Ali was now standing in the center of both. Victor came again, faster now, because he had noticed the change in mood around the ring. He saw that the smaller lies were starting to crack, and that made him angry. He He threw a hard combination aimed at Ali's head and body, hoping to force him into the ropes and end the fight before more truth could spread. Ali blocked, shifted, and turned his shoulders with smooth control, but Victor still pushed him back one step, then another. The pressure felt huge, yet Ali found something new inside himself. He was no longer boxing only to win applause or prove a point. He was boxing to protect the people behind him and to make sure Sharon could not turn their work into a cage. That purpose gave his movement a different shape. He stopped drifting and began planting his feet with calm precision. When Victor lunged again, Ali stepped inside the heavy reach, touched Victor with a quick body shot, and then slipped away before the counter could land cleanly. It was a small move, but it changed the mood of the round because Victor finally looked frustrated. At that same moment, a loud crack came from the upper section, and one of the arena screens flickered to life with a hidden control page. The crowd did not understand it yet, but Coach Henry did, and so did Sharon, because the control panel was now exposed. The lights above the ring shifted, and for one strange second the whole arena seemed to split into two worlds, one built on spectacle and one built on truth. Then a new figure appeared at the edge of the control booth, and this was the first real twist of the night. The person was not one of Sharon's callers at all. It was an assistant from the arena office, a quiet woman with black hair and a clean gray jacket, and she was carrying records that showed Sharon had been working for a larger sponsor group that wanted Victor to win no matter what. Sharon was not the top hand. She was the middle hand, and that made her even more dangerous because she had lied to everyone while pretending to be in charge. Ali did not have time to study the full meaning yet, but he understood enough to know that the trap was bigger than one woman, one boxer, or one fight. That revelation changed the air inside the arena because now the crowd could sense that something hidden had finally cracked open. Sharon, still in her sleek dark suit, stepped into the open aisle with her blonde hair shining under the lights, and for the first time her hard smile looked thin. She had spent the whole night acting like a master, but now she was being seen as a tool, and that truth made her dangerous in a new way. She shouted at Victor to keep pressing, because if he won quickly enough, the sponsor group might still protect her. Victor heard her, and for one brief moment, his cold stare turned uncertain, because he realized that he had been promised control that did not truly belong to him. He wanted victory, yes, but he also wanted respect, and Sharon had never cared about either one beyond usefulness. Ali saw that weakness and used it. He moved with a calm face, then spoke in a low, even voice that cut through the noise just enough for Victor to hear. He told Victor that a man could not become strong by letting other people steer his hands. He said that the ring would remember who fought with honor and who fought like a pawn. Those words landed harder than any punch because Victor had spent years building his life around being untouchable. Now he had to face the possibility that he had been used. The crowd roared again, but this time the sound was mixed with anger, surprise, and the hunger for truth. Coach Henry nodded once because he knew Ali had changed. The young fighter who once loved the spotlight had become a man who could stand inside the storm and still choose the right path. Eddie, trembling but relieved, handed the proof to the arena staff before Sharon could take it back, and Ricky blocked the maintenance door so nobody could erase the files. Sharon saw the net closing around her and her smile vanished. Yet she did not run because people like her never left quietly when the game was breaking. Instead, she lifted her chin and turned toward the sponsor balcony as if she still expected someone above to save her. Ali followed her gaze, and for the first time he saw that the upper seats were not empty after all. Hidden figures had been watching the whole fight, waiting to see whether their plan would work. The next bell had not even finished fading, and already the real battle was rising again, deeper than the ring, wider than the arena, and far from finished. The championship arena felt colder after the last bell, even though the lights still burned bright above the ring. The crowd stayed loud, but the sound no longer felt simple or excited. It now felt sharp, restless, and full of fear. Muhammad Ali stood near the ropes with his white gloves held high, his short black hair damp, his lean body steady, and his sharp eyes fixed on the sponsor balcony. He had entered this night thinking it would be a hard title fight, but the truth had now grown much bigger. This was not only about winning rounds, it was about stopping people who were using the match like a machine, and if they succeeded, they would turn Victor Reed into a weapon and crush everyone who stood in the way. Near the corner, Coach Henry watched with his shaved head, gray beard, broad shoulders, and calm eyes that never missed a thing. Ricky stayed close beside him, slim and tense, with brown hair stuck to his forehead and a careful face that kept checking the ring and the stands. Eddie, the tired worker in the arena uniform, stood near the tunnel door with dark hair and a nervous look, clearly wishing he could vanish. Above them all, Sharon Miles sat in the sponsor balcony with straight blonde hair, a dark business suit, and that hard, calculating smile that made her look like she had already planned the next 10 moves. She wanted control, she wanted money, and she wanted the crowd to believe that the champion was whoever she chose. Victor Reed, tall and massive in dark championship trunks and black gloves, stared through the ropes with a square jaw and a cold, unblinking look. He had not been born cruel, but pressure had shaped him into a man who only knew force, because Sharon had promised him fame, power, and a place above the people who used him. When Ali looked up at the balcony, he saw two more figures half hidden in shadow, both watching the fight with the stillness of people who thought they owned the night. Coach Henry leaned close and spoke without wasting a word because the arena was too dangerous for mistakes. He told Ali that the upper seats had been reserved long before the event began, and that Sharon had spent weeks arranging private meetings with officials, sponsors, and handlers. She did not care who won in the clean way. She cared only that the result matched her plan. If Victor looked unstoppable, then new contracts would be signed, old debts would be buried, and the people in the balcony would gain more power over every fight in the city. That was why the match had felt wrong from the start. That was why the referees kept hesitating, why the lights dimmed at strange moments, and why the crowd had been pushed toward panic instead of fair sport. Ali listened, and for the first time he understood that the broken rhythm of the night was no accident. Sharon had built a trap around the ring, and Victor had become the center of it. But as Coach Henry kept talking, Eddie suddenly stepped forward from the tunnel door, his hands shaking. He said he had seen Sharon speaking with arena staff before the fight, and he had been ordered to cut the emergency power if Victor looked like he might lose control. He had not wanted to do it, but he had been scared. He also admitted that a second back gate had been opened for private staff and that someone had moved equipment cases behind the sponsor row. That detail changed everything. It meant Sharon was not only guiding the match, she was also preparing a way to escape and maybe a way to hide something once the fight turned ugly. Ricky clenched his gloves and asked the question everyone was afraid to say aloud. If the balcony people wanted Victor to win so badly, what would they do if Ali stopped him? The answer came in the silence that followed. They would try to break the whole arena and blame Ali for the chaos. Before anyone could speak again, Victor Reed stepped forward and lifted one black glove toward the balcony, not as a sign of pride, but as a sign that he was waiting for instruction. His face stayed hard, but his eyes carried a small crack of doubt. Ali saw it at once. Victor was not only angry, he was trapped. Sharon had promised him a place at the top, but she had also kept him under pressure with secret penalties, hidden warnings, and the threat of public humiliation if he failed. That truth struck Ali harder than a punch. He had spent the earlier rounds thinking Victor was simply another strong man who wanted to bully the world. Now he saw a different picture. Victor wanted respect, but he had been taught that fear was the only road to it. Ali lowered his shoulders a little, not in surrender but in understanding. He called up toward the balcony, and his voice cut through the noise with clean force. He said the night was being stolen and everyone in the arena could see it. He said Sharon could hide in the shadows all she wanted, but the truth was already standing in the ring. The crowd shifted. Some people booed, some people stared. A few began to murmur because they could feel the tension changing shape. Sharon's smile did not move, but her eyes sharpened. She gave a small nod to one of the hidden figures, and at once the arena lights flickered. For one dangerous second, the whole ring dipped into a dark shimmer, and when the lights returned, the lower gate near the tunnel stood open. Two men in dark staff jackets stepped out, trying to reach the side of the ring. They were not fighters, they were clean-up men, and they were carrying folded cables and a heavy control case. Coach Henry shouted for everyone to stay back, and Ricky rushed toward Eddie to pull him away from the open doorway. Eddie, now terrified but finally honest, pointed and told them that the control case held the emergency sound switch. If it was triggered, the crowd would be overloaded with noise and the security teams would rush the wrong side of the arena. That was Sharon's real plan. She wanted confusion because confusion would make Victor look like a monster and make Ali look like the cause. Ali moved first. He crossed the ring with calm steps, not chasing the men but cutting off the path between the tunnel and the control case. Victor moved at the same time, and for a heartbeat the whole arena thought the two great fighters would collide again in rage. Instead, Victor stopped short. He looked from Ali to the balcony and then back to Sharon, and something inside him finally changed shape. He saw that she had used his anger like a leash. He saw that every promise had been tied to another order and that her support had never been respect. It had been ownership. The twist of that truth hit him hard enough that his shoulders dropped. He did not become soft and he did not become kind, but he became honest. He said he had been told Ali was the enemy, yet the real enemy was the hand above them pulling every string. Sharon stood up in the balcony, her smile gone now, her face flat and cold. She ordered the hidden staff to move, but Coach Henry had already shoved the arena security radio into Eddie's hands and told him to broadcast the truth through every loudspeaker he could reach. Eddie, trembling but braver than before, ran for the maintenance panel under the stage steps. Ricky followed, covering him and blocking one of the staff men with a sharp glove tap that forced him back. The crowd began to rise from fear into anger because people do not stay quiet once they understand they have been tricked. Ali faced Victor again, but this time he did not raise his hands as if to boast. He spoke plainly and said that if Victor wanted a real future, he had to choose for himself, not for Sharon. Victor heard that, and for the first time all night, he nodded. He turned his body toward the open tunnel, cutting off the staff men before they could reach the control case. The two of them, once locked as enemies, now stood on the same line for one brief and impossible moment. The clash that followed was not a normal fight, and it was not meant to be. It was a fast, brutal scramble through bright light and moving shadows, with Victor using his size to block, Ali using his speed to guide, and Coach Henry shouting short commands from the corner. One staff man slipped away toward the lower stairs, but Ricky caught his sleeve and drove him back with a clean shoulder check. Eddie finally reached the panel and yanked the emergency power switch away from Sharon beside the system. The arena sound changed at once, and the crowd heard the sharp burst of a warning tone instead of the planned noise storm. That failure broke Sharon's hold on the moment. She slammed her hand on the balcony rail, furious now, and for the first time her control slipped enough for everyone to see it. Yet even then, the night was not settled. One of the hidden figures in the upper seat stood up, and Ali recognized him from earlier meetings in the gym. He was not a fan. He was a money man, one who had financed the whole scheme and now wanted to protect himself. He pointed toward the ring and shouted for the security teams to move in, hoping to turn the blame onto Ali and Victor both. That new move raised the stakes again, because now the plot was larger than Sharon alone. The balcony had become a nest of people who all wanted different things, and some of them were willing to burn the whole arena to hide the truth. Ali looked at the crowd, then at Victor, then at Coach Henry, and he understood what had changed inside him. He was no longer fighting just to prove he was the best. He was fighting to protect the room, the people, and the idea that a fair fight still mattered. He took a slow breath, set his stance, and prepared for whatever came next, while the sponsor balcony darkened above him and the next move of the hidden plan began to rise. The championship arena glowed like a giant trap with bright lights above and dark seats below, while the crowd kept shouting in waves that never fully settled. Smoke from the failed threat still hung near the rafters, and every sound felt sharper because everyone knew the night had changed. Muhammad Ali stood in the center of the ring with white gloves lifted, his short black hair damp with sweat, his lean body steady, and his sharp eyes fixed on the shadowed sponsor balcony. He was a black man in white and gold trunks, and he no longer moved like a showman trying to impress the room. He moved like a man who had found a reason bigger than himself. Coach Henry stayed near the ropes, broad shoulders tense, gray beard set hard, and tired eyes watching every corner. Ricky stayed farther back with his brown hair stuck to his forehead, his slim frame ready, and his face serious in a way that showed he understood the danger now. Victor Reed stood across from Ali like a wall that had learned how to hate, tall and heavy with black hair, square jaw, and black gloves hanging at his sides as if he already believed the ring belonged to him. Above them all, Sharon Miles watched from the darkened balcony, her straight blonde hair catching the last light, her slim body still and precise, her cold smile saying she had planned this night for a long time. The problem was no longer only the fight. The problem was the truth itself, because someone had tried to use the arena, the crowd, and even the fire alarm system to bury a rigged match and protect the people who had paid for it. If Ali lost now, the lie would survive. If he won without exposing the scheme, the same people could repeat it anywhere else. That was the real stake, and Ali understood it better than anyone in the room. Victor took one step forward, and the floor trembled under his weight, while the referee tried to keep his voice calm and steady. He was a man caught between power and fear, and he wanted this match to continue because stopping it would bring questions he could not answer. Sharon did not speak from the balcony, but her hand rose once, and that small motion sent two arena staff members moving at the edge of the floor. One of them was Eddie, a weary man with dark hair, average build, and a nervous face that looked older than it should. He wore a gray maintenance uniform, and he kept glancing at the metal service door behind the sponsor boxes as if he wanted to run, but could not make his body obey. Coach Henry saw him first and realized the truth was probably not only in the ring. It was in the walls, the wires, and the hidden doors beneath the arena. Ali noticed the same thing a moment later, and his breathing slowed instead of speeding up. He had once fought to prove he was the best. Now he fought to protect the room, the people, and the idea that a fair fight still mattered. Victor came forward with a crushing left that drove air from the space between them, but Ali slipped it, touched the ropes with his backhand, and answered with a fast combination that snapped Victor off balance. The crowd erupted because it looked like a normal exchange, yet Ali was reading more than punches. He was watching the balcony, the staff line, and Eddie, who looked close to breaking. Then Sharon finally gave a look toward the service hall, and that look changed everything. Ali understood that Victor was not just fighting for pride. Victor was here to keep the arena silent, because if the crowd learned how the match had been fixed, Victor would become part of a scandal that could end his path to the championship and damage the people financing him. That gave his rage a clear shape, and it made him even more dangerous, because desperate men often strike harder than proud ones. The next exchange came fast, and the ring became a storm of footwork, gloves, and hard breath. Victor pressed with raw force, trying to cut off Ali from every angle, while Ali stayed light, turned his shoulders, and answered with sharp, controlled shots that landed cleanly without wasting motion. Coach Henry kept calling short commands from the side, telling Ali to stay calm, stay low, and keep seeing the whole ring. Ricky watched the service door at the same time, then saw Eddie slip away behind a curtain of black fabric near the lower seats. That movement mattered more than any single punch, because it meant the hidden plan was still active. Ricky moved along the edge of the crowd, careful and quick, and soon he found Eddie beside an open panel that led into the arena control tunnels. Eddie was shaking, but he was not cruel. He had been told to keep quiet because his family needed his paycheck, and Sharon had made it clear that people who spoke too much would never work in an arena again. He had agreed out of fear, not because he wanted the lie to win. Ricky spoke to him with calm urgency, and for a moment Eddie finally let the truth out. The balcony team had ordered the lights to fail if Ali gained control, and they had also planned to lock the lower exits long enough to force panic. The fire threat was real, but it was meant as a cover, a reason to make the crowd rush, stumble, and forget the questions about the fight. Ricky understood the ugly logic at once. The sponsors wanted confusion because confusion was easier to control than honesty. He sent Coach Henry a quick signal, and Henry saw it just in time to shout for Ali to stay center and avoid the lower left side of the ring. Ali heard the warning through the roar, adjusted at once, and blocked a hammering right hand that would have pushed him toward the trap. He countered with a body shot, then another, each one placed with perfect care, not to hurt Victor badly, but to slow him to think and to make him show the crowd what he was really doing. That was when the twist became clear to everyone who was still paying attention. Victor was not the true master of the scheme. He was the weapon Sharon had aimed at the ring. She had promised him the title path, the money, and the image of greatness, but only if he stayed loyal and helped bury the corruption of the night. Victor had accepted because he feared being replaced and because he thought power would make the fear go away. But now Ali could see the crack in him. Victor had begun to realize that Sharon would sacrifice him the moment he became inconvenient. The cold certainty in his eyes was not confidence anymore. It was panic wrapped around anger. Ali used that moment with perfect timing. He stepped in, made Victor overcommit, then turned the larger man with a clean pivot that sent him stumbling against the ropes. The crowd roared again, but this time they were roaring for more than a punch. They were seeing a fighter who understood the whole battle. Sharon noticed the change and finally lost her calm. She barked orders to the staff line, but Eddie, no longer able to carry the shame, pulled the control panel open and ripped free the lock on the exit system. At the same time, Ricky reached the balcony stairs and started upward, determined to bring the truth into the light before the sponsors could vanish. Coach Henry remained at ringside, steady as stone, watching Ali with pride and fear together because he knew the hardest part was still coming. Ali stood in the center of the ring, chest rising and falling, eyes locked on Victor, then on Sharon, then on the crowd that had not yet fully understood how close they had come to disaster. He had changed in a way that could not be undone. He was no longer the boy who wanted applause and no longer the fighter who only wanted glory. He had become a protector, a witness, and a man willing to stand in the middle of a lie until the lie cracked open. Victor raised his gloves again, but this time his stance wavered and the whole arena could see it. Ali lowered his shoulders, not in surrender but in readiness, while the dark balcony above began to fill with moving shadows and the next act of the hidden plan started to rise. The championship arena glowed like a giant stone furnace, with bright lights pouring down onto the ring and dark seats rising around it like cliffs. The crowd was loud, but the sound felt strange now because fear had slipped into the cheers. High above the ring, the balcony stayed hidden in shadow, and that darkness seemed to move on its own, as if the night itself had chosen to watch. In the middle of that pressure stood Muhammad Ali, a black man with short black hair, sharp eyes, and a lean body that still looked loose, calm, and ready. He had come here wanting glory once, but that part of him had burned away. Now he wanted something much harder to earn. He wanted the truth to survive the night. Beside the ring edge, Coach Henry stood with his shaved head, gray beard, broad shoulders, and steady eyes, looking like a man who had seen many storms and refused to bow to any of them. Ricky, a young man with brown hair and a serious face, kept his boxing gloves raised near his chest, watching every move with loyal focus. And in the press row near the ropes, Sharon Miles, a sharp woman with straight blonde hair and a hard, calculating smile, sat in her dark business suit like a queen in a room she believed she owned. She wanted Victor Reed to win, not only because he was strong, but because she had built a whole plan around him. If Victor broke Ali in front of everyone, Sharon would control the stories, the contracts, and the future of the sport. That was the real battle now, not just who could strike harder, but who could hold the truth long enough for the world to see it. Victor Reed, tall and heavy with black hair, a square jaw, and black gloves, stood across from Ali with a cold stare that now carried a crack of doubt. He had been trained to crush, to dominate, and to never show weakness. Yet the crowd had seen him hesitate, and in a fight like this, hesitation could ruin everything. He did not only fear losing the match. He feared losing the image that Sharon had built around him, because that image was the only power she had ever promised him. Coach Henry took one step closer to the ropes and spoke with the low calm of a man who knew the truth mattered more than noise. He told Ali to keep his eyes open because the real danger was not only in Victor Reed. It was above them in the moving shadows on the balcony. Ali nodded once and his face stayed still, but his mind sharpened. He could feel that something was wrong in the way the crowd kept shifting, in the way the arena workers kept looking up, and in the way Sharon kept glancing toward the dark upper level. Then Eddie appeared near a side passage, wearing a worker uniform and carrying the tired, nervous face of a man who had not slept well in many nights. Eddie was an arena maintenance worker, a man who wanted nothing more than to do his job and go home. He had no dream of fame, no desire to fight, and no reason to stand in the center of danger. That was exactly why he mattered. He was one of the few people inside the arena who had seen the hidden plan from the start. His hands shook as he looked toward Coach Henry, then toward Ali, as if he feared that speaking at all would bring trouble down on him. Ricky noticed Eddie first and gave him a careful nod, trying to show that he was safe. Eddie swallowed hard and said that the balcony crew had not been there for normal security. They had been moving equipment, blocking exits, and carrying sealed cases that were not part of the fight night setup. He did not know every detail, but he knew enough to understand that Sharon had arranged something to happen if Ali began to expose her. Coach Henry listened without moving, and his steady face grew harder with each word. This was the hidden plan rising at last. Sharon had never wanted only a champion. She wanted a controlled champion, one who would stay quiet, take orders, and protect her business. Ali had refused that role, and so she had set a trap to make him look unstable, reckless, and impossible to trust. The crowd could still be turned. The judges could still be pressured. The whole sport could still be bent around Victor Reed if Ali could be made to look like the problem. That was why the balcony shadows mattered. They were not just watching. They were waiting to make the next move. Ali stepped away from the corner and moved toward the center of the ring, his shoulders lowered, his breathing slow, and his eyes locked on Victor Reed. He was no longer trying to impress anyone. He was no longer chasing the roar of the crowd. That old hunger had made him fast, but it had also made him easy to use. Now he stood with a deeper purpose. He was there to protect the truth and to keep the lie from swallowing everyone in the arena. Victor raised his gloves again, but his stance was unsteady now, and that weakness spread through him like a silent crack in glass. Sharon saw it and her smile faded for just a moment. She had expected control, not doubt. She had expected Victor to move forward and crush Ali into silence. Instead, Victor looked from Ali to the balcony, then back again, as if he could feel the trap tightening around him too. That was when the shadowed balcony began to fill with movement. Several figures shifted at once, their outlines dark against the dim upper lights, and Eddie pointed upward with a trembling hand. He said the balcony crew was preparing a signal, something that would disrupt the ring and create confusion. No one in the crowd knew that yet, but Ali did. Coach Henry did, Ricky did, and Sharon did because she had built it. The pressure in the arena changed at once. The crowd still roared, but now the sound seemed split between wonder and danger. Ali did not rush, he did not waste strength on anger. He watched Victor, watched Sharon, and watched the balcony because a protector had to see all of it, not just the fist in front of him. Victor took one step, then stopped. That small pause told Ali more than any speech could. Victor was not only afraid of losing the title, he was afraid that Sharon had been using him from the start, and that fear was finally waking him up. Ali knew then that Victor was not the true heart of this problem. Victor was a weapon built by other hands, and now the weapon was beginning to question the hand that shaped it. Coach Henry gave Ali one simple signal, a small motion of the hand that meant stay ready and wait for the truth to show itself. Ricky moved closer to the apron, ready to help if the ring became unsafe. His serious face had changed too, because he was no longer just a sparring partner hoping to prove himself. He was part of the defense now, part of the wall that would keep the night from collapsing into chaos. Eddie, still trembling, admitted that he had seen one of Sharon crew members place a hidden device near the lighting control path. It was meant to cause a brief failure, a flash of confusion, and then blame Ali for the disturbance. Sharon had planned to make the world believe he lost control. That one detail changed everything. Ali had not simply been fighting a man. He had been fighting a machine built to trap him, and now the machine was beginning to show its gears. The revelation hit the arena like a cold wind. Sharon had been shaping Victor, the judges, the lighting, and the crowd response, all so she could write the ending she wanted. Yet the moment her plan was named, its power began to weaken. Ali looked straight at Victor and spoke clearly, saying that he did not need to be Sharon way out. He could stand on his own. He could walk away from being used. The words landed harder than a punch because they went straight to the place Victor had hidden his shame. Victor's jaw tightened, and for the first time his glare wavered into something human. He had spent so long trying to become the strongest man in the room that he had forgotten to ask who was holding the room together. Sharon slammed her hand on the table at ringside, furious now, and ordered the hidden men above to move. That command broke the last piece of her calm face, and the balcony shadows finally shifted into action. Then the arena lights flickered once, just as Eddie had feared. The crowd gasped, and the whole ring flashed into a half-second of darkness before the lights returned. In that brief break, men on the balcony began to move fast, and a side gate at the upper level started to open. Coach Henry shouted for everyone to stay alert, while Ricky rushed to a corner post to keep the lane clear. Ali did not panic. He had learned that panic belonged to the lie, not to the truth. He turned toward the balcony and raised one glove, not as a threat, but as a sign that he had seen them. That single motion changed the mood of the room. It told the hidden crew that their cover was gone. It told the crowd that something was wrong. It told Victor that the fight in front of him could not stay fake any longer. And it told Sharon that the night was slipping from her hands. Victor looked at Sharon, then at Ali, and at last he made his choice. He did not step toward Ali with force. He stepped half a pace back from Sharon, and that tiny movement carried the weight of a full rejection. Sharon barked at him again, but the sound now felt small inside the huge arena. Eddie, seeing the opening, hurried toward the maintenance control panel and pulled the alarm lever that would stop the lighting trick before it could spread. A harsh tone sounded over the crowd, not enough to scare people, but enough to force the hidden workers to freeze. The balcony figures stopped moving, caught between their orders and the sudden exposure. Ali stood in the center of the ring with the lights burning above him, calm and unshaken, while the truth around him started to crack open at last. Yet the night was not finished. Sharon was still there, and she still had allies in the dark places of the arena. Victor was still dangerous, even as his certainty broke apart. And somewhere above the ring, one more step of the hidden plan was already waiting to fall. Ali understood that this was only the beginning of the real fight, because the moment a lie starts to break, the people who built it always become desperate. He drew in a slow breath, set his feet, and waited for the next move, ready to protect the truth no matter what came down from the shadows above. The championship arena glowed like a giant eye in the dark city night, and every bright light above the ring made the shadows below look deeper and more alive. The crowd still roared, but the sound now felt uneasy, like people could sense that something was wrong even if they could not name it. Muhammad Ali stood in the center of that pressure, with his white and gold trunks shining under the lights, his black hair damp with sweat, his lean body loose and ready, and his sharp eyes fixed on the space above the ring where the hidden plan was supposed to fall. He was not only fighting Victor Reed now, he was fighting the lie that had been built around this whole arena. Coach Henry stayed near the ropes with his shaved head, gray beard, and steady eyes, watching everything with the calm of a man who had seen too many tricks to trust a loud room. Ricky, with his brown hair and careful face, stayed close behind him, gloves raised, ready to move fast if the danger changed shape. Eddie, the tired arena worker with dark hair and a nervous stare, stood near a side ladder under the platform lights because he had already been caught in the middle of this mess and still wanted out. Sharon Miles, the woman in the sleek dark suit with straight blonde hair and a hard, calculating smile, remained high in the control section above the ring, where she could watch the whole arena like it belonged to her. She wanted power, control, and silence, because the hidden system she helped build could keep the champion title, the contracts, and the crowd all under her hand. Victor Reed, tall and heavy with black hair, a square jaw, and black gloves that looked like iron, faced Ali from the far side of the ring. He wanted to crush Ali before the truth spread any farther, because if the crowd learned that the match was being bent and managed from above, then Victor would lose more than pride. He would lose the image Sharon had paid so much to create. That was the real danger now. The fight had become a battle over who owned the story, and if Ali failed, the lie would keep standing while honest fighters like Ricky and Eddie stayed trapped under it. Victor came forward first, but his steps were no longer smooth and full of certainty. His shoulders were still huge, and his stare was still cold, yet there was a crack in the way he moved because he could feel the crowd changing. Some fans were still cheering his name, but others were starting to whisper after seeing the broken camera panel and the strange movement above the ring. Ali did not rush. He let Victor come close, then shifted to the side with a quick, clean step that came from long practice and deep calm. Victor swung hard, trying to force the issue, but Ali slipped the strike and answered with a fast jab that snapped Victor back just enough to make him miss his next move. The crowd gasped, then shouted louder. Coach Henry called from the edge, telling Ali to stay light and keep Victor guessing. Ricky watched the control platform and saw Eddie staring at a hanging service rail that led to the upper catwalk. Eddie looked scared, but he also looked trapped by the same fear that had kept him silent so long. Ricky understood first. The hidden plan above the ring was not just a trick for one fight. It was part of a system that could change signals, block cameras, and push the crowd into believing whatever Sharon wanted them to believe. That was why Eddie mattered. He had helped maintain the arena after hours, and he had seen the sealed doors, the false wiring, and the extra power line that ran to the upper platform. He had been told to keep quiet because if he spoke up, he would lose his job and maybe much more. Now, with the truth beginning to surface, Sharon needed him silent even faster. She turned sharply toward the workers on the platform and ordered them to cut the lights above the ring, hoping darkness would make the crowd panic and make Ali look like the cause of the chaos. But Ali saw the shift before it finished. He raised one glove, pointed up toward the catwalk, and shouted for the audience to look. His voice cut through the noise with a clear strength that made people turn. "They are hiding something above us," he called. "Do not let them decide what you see." That single moment changed the room. The crowd leaned forward. The lie could no longer stay buried as just a rumor. It was now part of the fight. Then the twist hit the arena like a hard bell. Eddie, trembling but finally done running, stepped away from the wall and lifted a maintenance panel from the side rail. Behind it was the proof Sharon had hoped no one would find. There was a small control box tied into the arena lighting, the sound system, and the overhead screen, all linked together so the staff above could change the crowd feed and hide anything they wanted during a match. The hidden plan was not only about cheating, it was about control. Sharon had built a machine that could shape the truth in real time, and Victor had agreed to stay as her public weapon because she promised him fame, money, and full control of the title. Victor had thought he was using her system to protect his place at the top, but now he saw that she was using him too. His eyes widened for the first time, and that single crack of doubt made him hesitate. Sharon, no longer smiling, gave the order for the upper catwalk guards to move in and shut Eddie up before the crowd could understand what he had found. Two arena men in dark uniforms rushed down the service stairs toward the ring, but Coach Henry planted himself beside the ropes and blocked their path with a hard, unmoving stare. He was not a flashy fighter anymore, but his presence had weight, and the men slowed because they suddenly realized this was not just a normal match. Ricky stepped forward beside him, shoulders tense, brown hair falling over his brow, ready to keep the attackers away long enough for Eddie to speak. Ali used that opening to cross the ring again, but this time he was not only fighting Victor. He was pulling the whole arena apart one piece at a time. Victor threw a heavy combination, hoping raw power would fix the damage, and one punch caught Ali high on the guard and drove him back a half step. The crowd shouted in fear, but Ali did not break. He reset his feet, breath slow, and looked directly into Victor's eyes. He saw something he had not seen before. Victor was afraid of falling, not only as a fighter, but as a man built on approval. He had lived so long inside Sharon's system that he no longer knew who he was without it. Ali understood that fear, and he used that understanding instead of hatred. He spoke through his guard in a low, steady voice. "You can still stop this." Victor stared, stunned by the offer. Behind him, Sharon yelled louder, but her power was slipping. The crowd had already seen enough to know that the arena was hiding more than a match, and once people begin to doubt a lie, fear starts to change sides. The lights above the ring flickered as the hidden system began to fail, and the whole arena shivered under the strain. The overhead screen flashed between the match feed and a string of technical warnings, exposing the control damage for everyone to see. Sharon rushed to the railing, her blonde hair snapping around her face as she screamed at the staff to restore the feed, but no one moved with the same obedience now. Eddie had already pulled one key cable free, and the false signals were breaking apart. That was the moment Ali had been waiting for. He moved in close, not to hurt Victor, but to force him to choose. Victor swung one last heavy strike, full of anger and panic, yet Ali slipped inside it and trapped the motion with a clean guard, then planted a sharp body shot that stunned Victor just long enough to stop the attack. Victor staggered, then caught himself on one knee, breathing hard, his cold stare finally gone. He looked up at Sharon, then at the crowd, and then at Ali. He saw the truth at last. He had not been standing in the top spot by his own strength alone. He had been standing there because Sharon had built a machine around him, and the machine was now breaking. Victor slowly raised a hand, not in surrender to shame, but in surrender to the lie. He stepped back from the fight and said in a rough voice that the whole arena could hear that he had helped keep the secret alive. The crowd went quiet, then a low wave of shock spread from row to row. Sharon backed away from the railing, her perfect control gone because she knew the truth had escaped, but she was not finished. With a sharp motion, she signaled the emergency shutters, and heavy metal screens began to drop around the upper exits and parts of the ring, trying to trap the fighters and block the proof from spreading outside. Coach Henry shouted for everyone to move. Ricky grabbed Eddie by the arm and pulled him clear, and Ali looked up at the falling shutters with calm focus. He now understood the next part of the hidden plan. Sharon was not trying to win the match anymore. She was trying to seal the arena and erase the evidence before anyone outside could learn what happened. Ali set his feet once more, his face calm but his eyes bright with purpose. He had stopped fighting only for himself now. He was fighting for the people who had been used, for the truth that had been buried, and for the chance to make sure this lie could never rule again. And as the last shutter began to lower above the ring, Ali drew in one slow breath and prepared to leap into the next danger, because the real end of this night was still waiting in the shadows above. The championship arena felt colder now, even with the crowd still roaring above the ring. Bright lights cut through the dark like knives, and the last shutter kept sliding downward with a heavy metal sound that echoed through the whole chamber. Muhammad Ali stood beneath it with his white gloves raised, his short black hair damp with sweat, and his lean frame set in a calm stance that did not match the danger around him. He had a black man of steady courage, a fighter with sharp eyes, and he knew this was no longer a simple match. Somewhere above that lowering shutter waited the real force behind the night, and if Ali failed here, the lie that had ruled this place would stay hidden forever. Coach Henry watched from the side rail with his shaved head, gray beard, and broad shoulders held tight with worry, because he understood what Ali now understood. This was about more than winning a title. It was about stopping Sharon Miles, the sharp woman in the dark business suit with straight blonde hair and a hard smile, before she could turn every fighter in the arena into a tool for her control. Ricky stood near the corner steps, young and serious, his brown hair damp and his boxing gloves tight at his sides, ready to help in any way he could. Eddie, the weary worker in a stained uniform, hovered near a service door with dark hair and a face full of fear, because he had already seen too much and was now trapped between Sharon and the truth. Victor Reed remained in the center of the ring, tall and heavy with black hair, a square jaw, and a cold stare that seemed to drain the warmth from the whole place. He had been built up as the unbeatable champion, but even he looked uneasy now, because the arena around him was changing too fast for his control. The danger was clear. If the shutter closed and the upper walkways sealed off, Sharon could erase the evidence, trap the fighters, and keep the night locked inside the arena forever. Ali glanced at the shutter, then at the broken line of shadows above the ring, and he made a choice. He did not charge Victor first. He leaped toward the narrow maintenance stairs at the edge of the platform, moving fast and low as the shutter came down another foot. Victor barked a warning and rushed after him, his heavy steps shaking the ring canvas, but Ali was already climbing, using the rail, the wall, and every hard edge of the structure to pull himself upward. Coach Henry shouted for Ricky to keep the lower level clear, because more men in dark uniforms were beginning to pour in from the side corridors. Ricky obeyed at once, his careful face turning firm as he squared up to block the first wave. He was not the loudest man in the arena, but he was loyal, and loyalty mattered now more than style. Eddie opened the service door only a crack and whispered that Sharon had ordered the upper control room locked, because she was hiding the proof of the fixed matches and the money trail that linked the whole scheme together. He said the arena workers had been forced to move cameras, delay messages, and seal exits whenever Sharon gave the word. That was the real trick behind the night. Victor had been the public face of power, but Sharon had been the mind behind it. She wanted the fights to look fair while she chose the outcome, and she needed the truth buried because the moment it reached the public, her empire would collapse. Ali heard every word as he climbed, and the calm in his face deepened into something stronger. He was no longer thinking only of the next punch. He was thinking of every fighter who had been pushed, paid off, or broken by a system that treated them like pieces on a board. The upper walkway was narrow, dim, and lined with steel beams that carried harsh shadows across the floor. Ali reached it just as the last shutter settled with a final, ugly clang. The arena below became a boxed prison of light and noise, while the space above turned into a maze of dark halls and locked doors. Sharon Miles was there already, standing near the glass control room with perfect posture and a cold, measured expression. Her blonde hair was pulled back neatly, and her sleek suit made her look even more controlled, like she owned every inch of the building. She did not shout, she did not panic. That made her more dangerous because her fear had already turned into plans. In a clear voice, she told Ali that the crowd wanted a show, not a truth, and she said the truth was too messy for the world she had built. She admitted she had used Victor Reed because brute strength sold tickets, and she had used Eddie and the arena staff because people with no power were easy to pressure. She had arranged for certain fighters to lose, certain cameras to fail, and certain records to vanish. Also, she could keep the arena rich and obedient. Ali listened, and the revelation struck him harder than any punch so far because the whole system had been built on fear, shame, and silence. Then the twist became clear. Victor was not only Sharon's champion, he was also her first prisoner. He had won too many fights to walk away, and Sharon had used that against him, promising glory while threatening to ruin his name if he ever disobeyed. Victor had not become cruel for nothing. He had become hard because Sharon had taught him that strength was the only thing that kept him standing. For the first time, Ali saw the man inside the champion, and he saw how deeply the lie had reached. Victor stepped between Ali and Sharon, but his posture had changed. The cold stare was still there, yet it now carried frustration and shame. He told Ali that he had never wanted this life, but Sharon had made him believe he had no other path. He said every victory had felt empty because each one had only tightened the chain around his neck. Sharon snapped back that he belonged to her success, that he was built to keep the crowd obedient and the money flowing, and that nothing would change tonight. But Eddie, trembling and pale, surprised everyone by moving fully into the hall and saying he had copies of the maintenance logs in a hidden cabinet below the control room. He had kept them because something inside him had always felt wrong, and now he was ready to risk everything to expose it. Coach Henry moved beside Ali, his broad shoulders steady, and he reminded Ali that truth was not always loud. Sometimes truth was a hand reaching out when fear said to stay still. Ricky joined them, bruised but standing, and the three of them formed a line that made Sharon take her first step back. Ali did not rush. He looked at Victor and saw a man trapped by pride and pressure, not a true enemy anymore. That did not erase the damage, but it changed the shape of the fight. Ali lowered one glove, then spoke directly to Victor and said power built on fear always breaks sooner or later. He said Sharon had used them both, and if Victor wanted his name back, he had to stand for himself now. Victor hesitated, and that hesitation was enough. Sharon reached for the control switch beside her, but Eddie lunged forward and knocked her arm away just enough to stop the lock from sealing. The room burst into confusion, alarms flashing red across the ceiling as the system began to fail. Footsteps thundered from the stairwell, more guards were coming, and the last safe window was closing fast. Ali moved at once, not to finish the fight, but to open the path. He crossed the walkway in a blur of balance and control, using quick footwork to drive back the first guards without hurting them more than needed. Coach Henry pulled Eddie toward the service cabinet, while Ricky held the hallway door against the pressure of the men outside. Victor stood still for one long second, then made his own choice. He turned away from Sharon, took one heavy step toward Ali, and used his great strength to slam the control room door shut before Sharon could slip through. That single act changed everything. Sharon stared at him in disbelief, her perfect plan shaking apart in her own hands, and Ali saw the fear beneath her anger at last. She had never cared about the fighters. She had cared about control, and now control was slipping away. The hidden cabinet opened, and Eddie pulled out the maintenance logs, the camera records, and a stack of sealed payment sheets that proved the fixed matches and the forced delays. Ricky handed the papers to Coach Henry, who looked at them with a grim nod and said the truth was finally ready to leave this place. But the danger was not over yet. The arena was still locked, the crowd still roared below, and the upper level still held one more secret path that led deeper into the building. Ali stood in the flashing red light, breathing hard but steady, his face calm again and his eyes bright with purpose. He had stopped fighting only for himself now. He was fighting for the people who had been used, for the truth that had been buried, and for the chance to make sure this lie could never rule again. And as the alarms kept ringing and Sharon backed toward the dark hallway beyond the control room, Ali set his feet once more, ready for whatever waited in the shadows above, because the real end of this night was still not in sight. The alarms kept screaming through the championship arena, and their sharp sound cut through the heavy air like a warning that no one could ignore. Bright lights still blazed over the broken control room, but beyond that room, the hallway waited in deep shadow, narrow and silent, like the arena itself had turned into a trap. Muhammad Ali stood with his white gloves raised, his short black hair damp with sweat, and his sharp eyes fixed on Sharon Miles as she backed away with careful steps. Sharon was a woman with straight blonde hair, a slim build, and a hard smile that never reached her eyes. She had spent the night pushing people around with money, fear, and lies, and she wanted one thing more than anything else: control. If Ali failed now, her false story would stay buried, Victor Reed would stay protected, and the people in the arena would remain trapped under her rules. That truth hung in the air as plainly as the alarms, and Ali knew this was no longer only a boxing match. It was a fight for every person she had used, every worker she had threatened, and every lie she had built into the walls of this place. Coach Henry moved up beside Ali first, calm and steady, with his shaved head, gray beard, broad shoulders, and worn dark training shirt. He had the look of a man who had seen too many hard rounds to waste fear on what came next. Ricky stayed just behind him, a young man with brown hair, a slim athletic frame, and a serious face that showed both worry and trust. He wore plain gym clothes and boxing gloves, and his careful eyes kept checking the hallway behind Sharon. Eddie stood near the broken console, his dark hair messy, his worker uniform dusty, and his tired face tight with nerves. He had been hiding from pressure for too long, but now he was here because he knew something important, and that made him matter. He had seen parts of the arena that Sharon thought nobody would question, and he wanted freedom as much as anyone else, even if he was afraid to say it out loud. Ali looked at all three of them and understood the shape of the night in a new way. He was not alone, and this place was not only a ring. It was a machine built to scare people into silence, and Sharon was the person who kept that machine running. Sharon stopped at the mouth of the hallway and turned just enough to flash that cold, measured smile. She did not shout because she did not need to. Her voice stayed low, clear, and smooth, like she believed calm control could still cover the truth. She told Ali that he should have taken the easy reward, the easy fame, and the easy victory, because her world always favored people who stayed quiet and took what they were given. Then she explained the reason behind her cruelty in a way that finally made her motive plain. Years ago, the arena had begun as a place to celebrate fighters, but when the money got bigger, she and Victor Reed changed it into something worse. They collected private betting records, secret contracts, and hidden payments, and they used those records to control fighters, workers, and officials. If the truth came out, everything she had built would collapse, and Victor would lose the power that kept him above everyone else. That was why she had framed honest people, locked workers into fear, and pushed Ali toward a final fight she thought he could not survive. Her goal had never been respect. Her goal had always been ownership. The moment she said it, the whole night became clearer and far more dangerous. Then Eddie found his voice. His hands shook, but he stepped away from the console and pointed toward the dark hallway. He said he had been sent to hide one last set of files inside the maintenance corridor above the arena floor, where the cameras did not cover every angle. Those files were the final piece of proof, and Sharon had ordered him to keep them hidden until after Victor won. If Victor won, the records would be destroyed, the workers would stay silent, and the arena would keep feeding on fear. But Eddie could not keep carrying that weight anymore. He had watched people bend under pressure, watched honest fighters get pushed aside, and watched Sharon use promises like chains. Now he wanted out, and he wanted the truth to live. Ali listened without interrupting because he understood something important in that moment. Eddie was not weak. He was trapped. That made him dangerous to Sharon because a frightened person who finally chooses honesty can shake a whole system more than a loud crowd ever could. Sharon saw that too, and for the first time her smile slipped for a second before she hid it again. She motioned toward the hallway, and from the dark behind her came the heavy footsteps of Victor Reed. Victor Reed stepped into the broken light like a wall made of muscle and anger. He was a tall man with black hair, a heavy build, a square jaw, and a cold stare that never seemed to blink. He wore dark championship trunks and black gloves, and his whole body carried the pressure of someone who liked making other people feel smaller. Victor had not come to talk. He had come to finish the work Sharon started. He believed strength gave him the right to decide who mattered, and he liked the money, the attention, and the fear that came with that power. But even Victor was not acting alone. He had stayed loyal to Sharon because she had buried his past mistakes, protected his name, and kept the records hidden that could destroy him too. That was the real chain around his neck. Ali saw it instantly, and he knew the truth had reached a deeper level than fists or pride. Victor was not just an enemy. He was also a man who had traded his conscience for protection, and that choice had turned him into Sharon's strongest weapon. The fight ahead was no longer simple. It was a clash between a man who had learned how to carry himself with honor and a man who had learned how to hide behind force. The control room door groaned as Victor lunged forward, and the broken space exploded into motion. Ali moved first, slipping under the heavy swing with smooth boxing steps, his white trunks flashing under the lights as he turned his shoulders and stayed balanced. Coach Henry shouted one sharp warning, not from panic but from experience, and Ricky moved to block the side path so Sharon could not slip away with Eddie or the files. The hallway filled with tension, and the alarms still rang above them, making every breath feel too short. Victor pressed hard, driving forward with power meant to overwhelm, but Ali met him with calm timing instead of fear. He used quick footwork, small angles, and clean punches that forced Victor back half a step, then another. Ali was not trying to crush him in rage. He was trying to open space, protect Eddie, and keep Sharon from disappearing with the truth. That was the change in Ali now. He still had pride, still had fire, but his heart was wider than before. He was not fighting for applause. He was fighting for people who could not fight back. Sharon retreated down the dark hallway, but she did not run in confusion. She moved like someone following a plan she had prepared long before this night began. She slapped a switch on the wall, and a set of metal shutters dropped halfway behind Victor, trying to divide the group and trap Ali in the control room with the stronger fighter. Eddie shouted that the files were above them in a locked maintenance case near the upper catwalk. Ricky glanced up, saw the narrow stairway, and understood what had to happen. He told Coach Henry that he would go for the case if Henry could keep the path open. Henry nodded once, then planted himself near the doorway like a mountain, ready to hold the line. Ali heard all of it while he kept moving against Victor, and he realized the night had split into two battles at once. One battle was in front of him where brute force tried to crush him. The other was above him where the proof of Sharon's crimes waited in a locked case guarded by shadows and time. The stakes climbed higher with every second. If the files disappeared, the truth would be buried again. If Victor broke through, Sharon would escape. If Eddie lost his nerve, the last chance would vanish. Victor tried a hard rush, but Ali shifted aside and answered with a sharp combination to the body and shoulder, enough to break the charge and force Victor to reset. The big man grunted and stared at Ali with new anger because he could feel the difference now. Ali was not drifting under pressure anymore. He was reading the fight, reading the room, and reading the truth behind the people in it. Then Sharon called from the hallway, telling Victor to stop wasting time and crush Ali before the others could reach the upper level. That single order revealed something else. Sharon was afraid, not of fists, but of exposure. She feared the files more than she feared any crowd because the records would show every payment, every hidden threat, and every person she had used as a piece on her board. The truth had become a blade aimed at her empire, and she knew it. Eddie, hearing her voice, made a choice at last. He rushed to the wall panel, ripped open the small metal cover, and revealed a hidden path to the upper stair. It was narrow, dusty, and barely lit, but it was real. He looked at Ali and said in a shaking but clear voice that the case was still up there, and if they moved now, they might still reach it before Sharon could seal the route. Ali gave one firm nod because that was the moment he had been waiting for. He understood the deeper fight now. He was not just trying to win against Victor. He was trying to break a system built on fear, and that kind of victory would not come from one punch alone. Ali pushed Victor back with one final step, then turned toward the stairway as Coach Henry held the doorway and Ricky started up after Eddie. Sharon saw the move and shouted for Victor to stop them, but Victor had already lost a little of his edge because Ali had shaken his certainty. For the first time, the great force in dark trunks looked less like a monster and more like a man who was running out of answers. Ali used that opening and crossed toward the stairs, his breathing steady, his eyes bright, and his body ready for the next round. Behind him, Coach Henry locked eyes with Victor and said nothing at all because his silence carried its own challenge. In front of Ali, the hallway climbed into deeper shadow, and somewhere above, the maintenance case waited with the missing proof inside it. Sharon was still somewhere in the dark, still planning, still trying to save herself, and that meant the night was far from over. But now the path had changed. The truth was close enough to touch, Victor had begun to crack, and Ali had become something greater than a fighter chasing a win. He had become the man people could trust when the lights went out, and as he stepped into the shadows above, the next danger was already rising to meet him. Above the bright roar of the championship arena, the upper catwalk stayed cold, narrow, and full of hard shadows. Metal beams crossed over the giant room like ribs, and weak lights blinked over cracked walls and old wiring. Below, the crowd still shouted for the main fight, but up here the sound came as a distant storm, broken and thin. Muhammad Ali moved through the maintenance hallway with quiet steps, his white and gold trunks catching only small bits of light while his sharp eyes kept searching every dark corner. He was not chasing pride now. He was chasing the truth because the missing proof inside the maintenance case could expose Sharon Miles, clear the names that had been twisted by lies, and finally show why Victor Reed had been pushed so hard into this night. Ali knew the stakes were bigger than a match. If the case was taken, the truth would sink again, and if Sharon reached it first, she could rewrite the whole story before anyone had a chance to stop her. Behind Ali, Coach Henry climbed the metal steps with slow, steady strength, his shaved head and gray beard hard to miss even in the dim light. He had the broad shoulders of a man who had seen too many false promises, and his calm voice kept everyone focused when fear tried to take over. Ricky followed close behind, his brown hair damp with sweat, his slim body ready to move fast, and his serious face showing the kind of loyalty that never asked for applause. He had wanted to help Ali from the start because he believed truth mattered more than winning. Victor Reed was not with them in the hallway, but his pressure still hung over the night like a heavy wall. He was a tall, powerful man with black hair, a square jaw, and a stare that could freeze a room. Yet now, for the first time, his cold certainty had begun to break. He had seen too much, heard too much, and felt the weight of what Sharon had asked him to defend. That crack mattered because a man who stops trusting his own side can become the key that opens everything. Ali understood that Sharon was not simply hiding, she was trying to survive. She had blonde hair, a sharp smile, and a mind that never stopped planning, because if the proof came out, her control over the arena, the fighters, and the money would collapse. She had built her whole life around control, and now that control was slipping fast. The first danger came without warning. A steel panel at the end of the hallway shifted open, and Eddie stepped out with trembling hands. He was a weary arena worker with dark hair, an average build, and a face that looked tired before the night even began. His uniform was stained with dust, and his eyes kept darting toward the stairs as if he expected someone to appear behind him at any second. Eddie was not brave by nature, but he had found the maintenance case earlier while checking the hidden panels above the arena floor. Inside it was the missing proof, sealed in a taped envelope with records, notes, and one small ledger that linked Sharon to the stolen arrangements around Victor. Eddie had wanted to turn it in, but Sharon had cornered him and scared him into hiding it. She had promised him safety if he stayed silent, and she had made it clear that silence was the only reason he was still standing there. Now he looked at Ali and the others with a face full of worry and shame. He told them that Sharon was coming up the west stairwell and that she had brought 2 security men with her, both ordered to recover the case before anyone could read it. Ali did not waste time. He told Eddie to stay behind him because this night needed people who would not run when the truth turned sharp. Then he asked where the case was hidden now, and Eddie pointed to a narrow service door at the far end of the hallway where a broken lock hung loose beside a stack of metal cables. When Ali reached the door, he found the case exactly where Eddie had said, but he also found the trap around it. Thin wire lines crossed the floor in neat rows, and one wrong step would slam the door shut and lock the hallway tight. Sharon had expected him to come. She had built fear into the path itself because she knew brute force alone would not be enough to stop Muhammad Ali. Coach Henry crouched low and studied the wires, then showed Ricky how to lift them with the edge of a wrench without setting off the pressure latch. Ricky worked carefully, his hands steady despite the tension, and Ali watched both of them with growing respect. This was not just a fight anymore, it was a team. It was trust made visible in small, careful movements. Once the path was clear, Ali opened the case and found the proof wrapped in plain paper, along with a voice recording device and a few folded notes. The notes showed exactly how Sharon had managed the hidden betting pressure around the arena, and they also showed that Victor had been used as a shield, not a partner. The recording was even worse for her. It held Sharon saying that if Victor stayed afraid, he would keep taking the blame while she kept the real control. That was the twist buried inside the darkness. Victor was not the mastermind. He had been controlled, pushed, and cornered by Sharon until he thought her plan was his only way out. Ali looked at the proof, then at the faces around him, and he understood why the night had felt wrong from the beginning. The enemy was not only force, it was fear dressed as power. Then Sharon arrived. Her blonde hair shone under the weak light, and her dark suit looked sharp even in the grim hallway, as if she had dressed for a board meeting instead of a hidden war. She did not rush. She walked with the cold confidence of a woman who still believed the room belonged to her. But her smile was tight now because she could see the case in Ali and hear the change in the air. Behind her, 2 security men blocked the stairwell, and one of them held a baton ready for trouble. Sharon told Ali that he did not understand the cost of exposing everything, and for a moment her voice almost sounded honest. She admitted that the arena was full of debts, secret payments, and threats from people higher up than Victor or herself. She said she had kept the system moving because if it fell apart, a lot of innocent workers would lose their jobs and fighters would be left with nothing. But that explanation only went so far. Ali saw the real shape beneath it. Sharon had not been protecting people first, she had been protecting her own control first, and the workers had been her excuse. Victor stepped out behind the stair rail a second later, his black hair damp and his heavy frame tense, and he did not look like a cold wall anymore. He looked like a man who had finally heard his own name spoken honestly. He had been angry because he believed strength should make everything simple, but Sharon had used that belief and turned it into a cage. Now he stared at the proof and at Ali, and his jaw tightened as he realized he had been fighting the wrong battle all night. The hallway filled with pressure, but not the kind that came from fists. It came from choices. Sharon ordered the security men forward, yet Victor raised one hand and stopped them. That single movement changed everything because the power she had used to control him was finally slipping away. Coach Henry stepped beside Ali, steady as a pillar, while Ricky moved to the side to keep Eddie safe. Ali did not swing first, he spoke first because he knew this moment needed more than force. He told Victor that strength without truth was just another kind of trap, and he told Sharon that her control was already ending. Then he held up the proof so everyone could see it. For a second, nobody moved. Even the crowd below seemed far away, like the whole arena was waiting to hear which way the night would break. Sharon tried one last move. She reached for the case, but Eddie, to his own surprise, stepped in front of her and blocked the path. His hands were shaking, yet his voice came out clear when he said he was done being scared. That small stand gave Ali the opening he needed. He shifted forward, not to harm, but to pressure, and he forced the security men back with sharp footwork and perfect timing. Victor then turned on the men who had been following Sharon, and the hallway erupted into a hard clash of bodies, footsteps, and shouted orders. No one was hurt beyond bruises and fear, but the balance broke. Sharon was driven back toward the stairwell, her perfect control shattered, and Victor stood between her and the proof she had tried to bury. When the noise finally settled, Ali remained in the middle of the narrow hall, holding the case like something alive. He was still tired, still bruised by the long night, and still surrounded by danger, but something inside him had changed in a deep and lasting way. He had come into the arena as a fighter who wanted to win and prove himself. He stood there now as a man who understood that trust was a kind of strength, and truth was a duty he could not walk away from. Coach Henry saw it first and gave a small nod because he had been waiting for Ali to make that change. Ricky felt it too, because he had followed Ali into the dark and found a leader who listened as much as he struck. Victor said nothing at first, but his eyes were no longer cold. They were tired, angry, and honest in a way they had not been before. Sharon backed toward the upper stairwell, her smile gone now, her plan broken but not finished, because even cornered people can still make one more dangerous move. Ali knew that this night was not over yet. The proof was safe for the moment, but the arena was still full of hidden hands, and the next door above the catwalk was already opening somewhere in the dark. So he tightened his grip, looked into the shadows ahead, and stepped forward again, ready for whatever rose next from the night. The championship arena still burned with bright lights, but the upper halls above it felt cold and tight. Dust floated through the weak lamps in the maintenance hallway, and every step sounded too loud. Muhammad Ali moved first, a black man with short black hair, sharp eyes, and a lean fighter stance. He wanted the truth to stay safe, and he wanted the night to end without another trick. Behind him came Coach Henry, a man with a shaved head and a gray beard, steady as stone. Ricky followed close, a young man with brown hair and careful eyes, ready to help if the shadows moved. The problem was simple and dangerous now. Sharon Miles still wanted the maintenance case because it held sealed papers, a recording device, and notes that could expose her plan with Victor Reed. If she took it back, she could still control the arena and bury the truth. Then Eddie stepped out from a side door, shaking in his work uniform. He was the arena maintenance man, and fear had pushed him into helping Sharon. His voice broke as he told them that Victor had promised him protection if he stayed quiet. Victor Reed stood at the far end of the hall next, tall, heavy, and cold-faced. He was not just fighting for pride. He wanted the rigged system to survive because it had carried his rise and kept his power safe. That was the twist that changed everything. Victor was not only a champion protecting a title. He was guarding a machine built on cheating, and Sharon had been the one running the hidden deals. She had used Eddie, threatened the workers, and tried to trap Ali in the arena so the proof would vanish before morning. Ali did not rush this time. He looked at Eddie and then at Victor, and he saw how fear had trapped them both. He told Eddie to stand aside and choose honesty. He told Victor the title would mean nothing if it rested on lies. Then Sharon tried one last move from the stairwell, but Ricky blocked her path, and Coach Henry pinned her plan in place with calm orders. The case was opened under the harsh light, and the truth inside could not be denied. Victor finally lowered his gloves. Eddie confessed everything. Sharon was forced to retreat into the darkness, and the arena workers began to gather around Ali like people waking from a bad dream. By dawn, the proof was in safe hands, the rigged scheme was exposed, and Ali left the arena not just as a boxer, but as a man who had turned pride into courage and won something much bigger than a fight.